Hello, everybody. My name is Liviu Babitz. I'm the CEO of a company called Cyborgs. I'll tell you all about it in a second, but I'll already save one of the questions that usually come, which is, how the hell did you get into this crazy stuff? By telling you what I did before and giving you a bit of a history about my past. So I'm a bit of a rebel, and I'm always very positive about changing the rules, and I always believe that now is the best time to change the rules and not to wait. I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 1980, so in the 90s I was in my mid-teens when technology just boomed. I was back then in Israel. So as you know, Israel is a very high-techy country, so high-tech and technology was all around us, and obviously I started playing with it. I had internet from a very, very young age, and it was all really nice and cool, but I said, okay, what's the end game of all this? Where are we going? If we look at our history as humans, so the moment we invented technology, we really got excited about it. And when I say technology, and I'm going to speak about what is technology as far as we see it, but the moment we started using the modern type of technology, let's say 100 years ago or a bit more, when we started having electricity and phones and all that, suddenly it was all an abundance of it, and we created and we said, okay, we can have lights, so let's have lots of lights, and we can create sounds, so let's have lots of sounds. And then we got to the 70s where everything was flashing and making sounds and all that. And I have a kid that is now 7 years old, and those of you that have kids know that when they are very little, they are really excited about all this stuff. So it's enough to give to a kid a flashing robot, and for them it's like, wow, that's amazing. I can really enjoy that. But when they get to the age of kind of 5, 6, and you suddenly give them the same robot or the same type of thing that you gave them a few years ago, they go like, but does it do anything else except those lights? So I think this is kind of where we are with technology. We really enjoyed playing with technology. We created places like, I don't know, the Times Square and all these big buildings with lots of lights. And today we understand that, wait, maybe we don't need all that. So why do we need technology, and what can we do with it? And I'm a big believer in using technology for revolutions. In my previous work, and this is why I'm getting to my past, I worked undercover for 5 years. I was the COO of what is today probably the edgiest human rights organization out there. And what they do is using technology to expose human rights violations in places where no one else has access to. My role was to architect and run these worldwide networks that are operating in places where there is no media, where there is no access to anybody. And although we live in a world where everything that, I don't know, Theresa May says something about Brexit, it comes out in a second, or Trump says another stupid thing, the whole world is speaking about it. I can promise you that there is a lot happening in this world, that there are people making sure that there is zero information coming out of there, and there is zero people knowing about actually what is happening, and our role was to expose that. Was a really amazing journey. We worked in, I can't get into details of where exactly the work is happening, but you can imagine is the worst dictatorships, mafias, trafficking, the people in the world that are also using different type of technologies to make sure that none of that is coming out. I survived that. I'm here. Everybody was really happy in the family that, okay, he's alive, and now he's going to get a real job, and he's going to do something that is nice, and he's not going to be in danger. And I thought, okay, but actually, what could be the next thing? And we started thinking. We met some interesting people, and we started thinking, can we use technology to actually reinvent ourselves or change ourselves or add things to us that we don't have with the ability things that we are born with. Now we know that And that's, I'm already going to save another question that sometimes is coming into people's mind, but natural evolution is amazing, and we love nature, and we don't want to change people and turn them into machines. But from the other hand, sometimes, and for some needs, and with the abilities that we have today, natural evolution is sometimes slow. We all know, for example, that using our senses to understand what is happening out there is a key thing. Everybody spoke about global warming for about 20 years, but everybody was like, yeah, whatever, that's not happening, that's not true, whatever, whatever, until we started having pictures of this piece of ice and this piece of ice, exactly the same piece of ice 5 years after. And we were like, shit, that's really happening, huh? So all these people that said all that, so now when we see it, or when we hear it, or when we talk, when we sense it, we can actually understand that things are happening. And let's do a 10-thought-second experiment. If I take away all your senses now, so I'll start by the sight, and then hearing, and then your sense of touch, and your sense of taste, basically what is remained out of all of us is everything that we experienced in our life before, so all our memories and everything that happened, every thought that we have, but we will not have any ability to have this conversation. We will not have the ability to create new memories. We will not have the ability to have friendships with people or nothing. We will be basically like a very, very smart computer, but a computer in a box that is not connected to anything. Our senses are those pipes that are connecting us to reality, and through those pipes we start getting a lot of information and a lot of data that helps us build what we called our reality. Now, we know as a fact that in the room where we are now, in this room, there are many more colors, there are many more sounds, there is the magnetic field of the planet and many other stuff that are just here, but we can't sense them. So it's not something, what we experience with the senses that we have is not the whole reality, as we call it. There is way more. Another fact is that everything that we ever created, or every industry that exists, is based on one or more senses that we have. I'll give you I'll share a nice anecdote that I usually share. I heard it by a guy called David Eagleman, who is a very nice neuroscientist, and he said, imagine yourself a world of 7 billion people, just as we are now, with families and jobs and wives and kids and dogs and whatever everybody has, but without the ability to hear. It could happen, right? And then there is this guy or lady who suddenly start hearing, and they come, guys, I can hear. And everybody looks at him and says, so fucking what? We don't need that. Because the way that we experience life, or the way that we understand what reality is again what our senses give us. So we don't think that we ever need this stuff, but we know today that without music, not only that people could not communicate, could not speak, they could not sing. We didn't have the instruments industry. We didn't have the microphones industry, the speakers industry. We didn't have Spotify. We didn't have Apple Music. We didn't have concerts. The people that sell concerts, everything that has to do with our hearing wouldn't have existed. And it's a huge part of our life. But we could have existed without it. It could have been a world that we don't hear. And another thing that is happening, and you guys, as I understand, most of you are developers, you know that AI and machines are taking over. They are becoming smarter and smarter every day. Just yesterday I saw on Facebook a post that I actually did not agree with, but someone wrote, well, why teaching kids coding these days when AI is going to code way better just in a few years? It's actually a waste of time. I don't agree with that saying, because I think that learning coding develops creativity and develops many, many other stuff that even if those machines will do that coding better, it's so important to teach kids a lot of stuff, and among them coding. But machines are a thing that we need to stay relevant with. So we decided to open a company that will enable people to extend their senses and to start having more senses. And I have on my chest this thing here called the North Sense, which I will speak about in a second. So the company is called Cyborgs. We are based in London. We exist for about 3 years now. And when we came out with the North Sense, and the North Sense is basically a simple device that what it does, it connects the wearer to the Earth magnetic field. So every time I face north, I get a little vibration in my chest. And now you're going exactly like the people from the anecdote with the hearing, and you say, so fucking what? Why do we need that for, right? Well, I'm gonna get in a second exactly to the implications of all that. But when we started, everybody was like, well, you guys are gonna survive exactly like a minute, and then you're gone. We tried, and some of my business partners, the co-founders, are very experienced business people with lots of successes, so we were sure that we're going to get some money in the beginning just to start the company. We went to everybody, and the answer from everybody was a big no. That's not going to happen. We are not putting a dime on it. So we said, okay, so then how can we start? And we started doing pre-orders just to create any kind of thing. And it actually really worked well. We raised our first money through people that paid for the product. So there were people out there who surprisingly came and said, oh, we've been waiting for something like that to happen for 20 years. I can't believe this is happening. And they bought it. At that stage, I can promise you that the only thing that we had was a drawing. We didn't do any kind of Kickstarter. We didn't do any kind of campaign. We put because we didn't have money. So we put a website. People bought it, and we started moving. And then people, after they bought it, some of them came and said, but wait, what is this going to do to me? How is it going to change me? And what's the difference between if I have a compass on my phone, because it's 2018 and everybody has a smartphone, and you have a compass on your phone, why wouldn't you use it? And the idea is very simple. A sense is a sense, and a tool is a tool. So for me to use the compass that I have on my phone, I need to make a deliberate decision to use the compass, so I need to take it out of my pocket, to open the compass, to use it, and then the next time when I want to do that, I need to make all this process again. The North Sense doesn't ask me, or I don't ask it, if I want to know where the North is, exactly as your ears do not ask you if you're interested to hear me now or to hear noises on the street, you just hear them. They are part of your life, they are part of how you experience reality. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling so well today, so my voice is a bit, but I took a lot of Nurofen, so I think I'm going to make it. So it's not a tool, it's a sense, and it's always part of us. None of us is taking our ears off when you finish listening to music, and nobody is taking their eyes off when you finish watching a movie, right? You leave them on, and even when you go to sleep, you do not take your sense of taste out of your mouth, although you're probably not going to eat while you're sleeping, because this is how we build what we call our reality, through our senses, through those pipes that I spoke before. The North Sense is always on. It's always giving me that input. And one of the things that we thought when we created this technology is that it will not look or feel like technology. So it doesn't have any buttons, it doesn't have any lights, it doesn't make any sounds. None of this stuff that are usually correlated with how technology is, those flashing stuff that we are used to see when we create or buy technology. Well, from being in a place where nobody wanted to invest anything in what we did, nobody thought that we're gonna, I'll tell you a personal story, but when I came to my family and I said, okay guys, I know what I'm gonna do next after Videre, everybody was like, yeah, so what is that thing? And I said, I told them about Cyborgs, and then my dad looked at me and he said, well, you know what I like about you? And I said, no. He said that you always have a plan B. So there was no plan B, and that was plan A, and the only plan. And we sold all the few hundreds of devices that we created very fast. And then at that stage, we had to decide if we manufacture more or we go to develop the next thing after some learnings that we did with the first MVP. So it was way much of a success than we thought. And now, going back to the place of, okay, you told us that it's important, and we should not exclude things that we never thought about, and it will have an impact. So what did it do to you? So I can put the impact of the North Sense to break it into 3 layers. First of all, it affects all your memories. So if today I'm going to remember the room, or every one of you, your memories are created from what your senses capture. So what you saw, what you heard, the temperature in a place, the sounds, whatever, the picture, the vision of the place that you've been to. I also remember every place that I go to by how it was located on the planet. So now, after having the North Sense for about 2 years, I have, you can imagine yourself, that I remember hundreds, if not thousands of places, exactly how they are located on the planet. And those things start to connect, and then you are getting to the second layer of the impact, which is emotions. The first thing that connects to your memories are emotions. So now, for example, I travel a lot, and I do these talks almost on a weekly basis somewhere in the world, so I don't see my son enough or as much as I would want to see him. So if I miss him, for me it's enough to turn north and to feel that vibration, which is exactly the same vibration that I get when I enter my house, or when I enter the school in the morning when I take him to school, because both of the entrances are facing north. So for me to feel that vibration when I think about him, it triggers the same emotional trigger as I would watch a picture, speak to him on Skype, or do whatever other thing that would remind me. We also, you can imagine, but when I worked undercover, I was completely nobody. I wasn't allowed to have Facebook, to have a Twitter. Nobody knew who I am, or more than that, many people in this world know me by many names and many identities. So I was a completely underground person, and suddenly everybody was interested into this cyborgness stuff and what we do, and I found myself with crews of newspapers flying from all over the world just to come and talk to us. And I'm telling that because it created a huge impact on the way that people see what we do, or see this new human enhancement era going forward. So from being in a place where 2 years ago, the only thing that the journalists were interested in is to come and see other clients doing the North Sense and connecting it to their body, see the blood, see the pain, whatever, you know, the pornography of the ritual. Suddenly, after a year and a half, and now people are like, okay, so what does it do, and how did it affect your life? And they are going to talk to clients also about it. And in the last year, there is also huge interest from the academia world. There are papers that started to be written about it. And neuroscientists are calling us and saying, well, actually, out of all this crazy stuff that is happening out there, you guys are onto something that can really change. So the whole public opinion in the last years about this whole idea of cyborgs and merging technology and humans suddenly became a thing that people are really interested and are not so afraid of anymore. But this is just a beginning. It's a step. It's people and everybody who comes to work for Cyborg Nest, I tell them, the first thing that I tell them, that you're not going to work on the perfect next sense. You're going to work on the next version, that we will try to make it as better as possible. But if we look a bit further, we can imagine a world where we are connected to so much more than we are connected now. That we understand, that we think about reality, that we make decisions in a very, very different way than we did it before, just with the senses that we are born with. So what's next, and what could be the next thing? One of the things that we are focusing on is to end what we call generation screen. So all this thing of us navigating, speaking to people, being stuck to this screen and living basically, letting go of our eyes for them to enjoy and experience reality. We are not really experiencing reality today with our eyes. Most of the day we are experiencing a screen. There is a lot of this data that can be transferred to us in a different way. And no, we are not the type of people that will say, well, actually we should let go of social media, and actually we shouldn't use this stuff, and we shouldn't use this stuff. It's been proven that people want to use it, and it's been proven that a lot of this stuff also have a lot of positive impact on humanity, so we should not stop using it. But we can find different ways or new ways of consuming this type of data, and not necessarily through a screen. So now imagine yourself a world where you could navigate like a bird, for example, and you won't need to look at a map. And you could go anywhere that you want, or without using any kind of device, or you could start sensing people, where people are. Instead of reading on Facebook, I'm in Malmo now, people could sense where I am and knowing exactly also how far from them I am. All that could happen very soon. It will connect to the virtual reality world, it will connect to the gaming world. Everything that has to do with this new sense that we are doing, if you start thinking. A few days ago, we did a presentation at Wired in London, and someone came and said, you know what, actually I'm working with firefighters, and one of the biggest problems of firefighters is when they go into buildings, they need to navigate into buildings. Now obviously they can't use a phone, they can't use a map, they need to navigate. And then I spoke to a musician, and he said, wow, that's amazing. People could start creating music based on orientation. And then you speak to people that are from the gaming world, and they are like, yeah, but all these games today, I don't know, Zelda, Mario, things that used to be a 2D thing 20 years ago or 15 years ago, today are huge 3D worlds that people need to navigate in. And navigation is a huge part of the game. So if people could navigate and really feel where they are, it could be amazing. All that is going to happen. For me, as far as I see it, and we know that today we are spending so much time on trying to understand what's happening there in the sky, and going to space and going to Mars and trying to explore things. It's amazing. But there is the same unknown just here around us, where we are, the same amount of curiosity that we can spend on trying to understand what's happening on Mars. We can try to understand actually what's happening here on our planet, that we think that we are part of, but we are part only of a fraction of what's happening. There is now you guys are, I imagine, are all tech people, or most of you tech people, so I imagine there is not much of a fear here around technology. But if you go out there, there are a lot of people that are afraid of technology. And the media and a lot of people and a lot of companies that are doing big mistakes are also contributing to that fear. But if we look actually, and I really recommend reading a book by which this talk is called Natural Born Cyborgs, by a guy called Andy Clark, and him and other neurophilosophers like Daniel Dennett speak about first there was humanity, then there was technology, then we merged, and since then we thrive. And I'm not speaking about 50 years ago or 100 years ago, I'm speaking about thousands of years ago. We cannot ever go back and feed 7 billion people from what's growing randomly on trees. We cannot go back and create clothes for 7 billion people just by killing animals and taking their skins. So technology and us, the merging has already happened thousands of years ago. It's not a new thing. But what's happening now is that it's getting really close to us. So a laptop that became a smartphone, and now things are starting to be attached and soon to be really embedded and implanted into us. So for a good reason, people say, wait. We need to speak about it. And we need to speak about it. And there is a lot to speak about it from an ethical point of view, and how we do it in a positive way, that it will actually impact humanity in a positive way, and will create a different type of life and a more enhanced and richer type of life. But we do not need to be afraid, because we and technology are together for thousands of years. And if technology disappears from the world today, we're gonna go probably in about a week, whole humanity is gonna wipe out and disappear, because again, we will not be able to exist without it. If we go to the, just 50, 60, 70 years ago, we created a world, especially after World War, where we needed to create a lot, and working was something, doing and working was something that was our aim as people, as humans. We are here to work, and we need a job, and we're going to have a boss, and we're going to go somewhere from 9 to 5. And all that, that was the trajectory that we created. But now, again, because of technology, we will not have to do that. And I'm very sorry for every person that loses or will lose their job because of technology. And on a personal level, it's probably a very high price to pay. But if we look as a collective for humanity, that will free us to go and learn, to go and be creative, and basically, as the slide says, we will move from doing to being, to be those human beings. It was never written in any kind of document that we came with that, okay, you are a human, you are supposed to work from 9 to 5, get a little salary, be miserable, and other people get rich and have an amazing life. It's not part of the deal, okay? And we can all enjoy this humanity, and we can all enjoy Earth, and technology is something that is going to definitely help us get there. Thank you very much for the time. We are hiring now, and we are hiring now software developers. We are really, really interested to meet amazing software developers. So if any of you is interested to get in touch, please drop me an email, connect me on LinkedIn, or any other way possible. Would love to have a chat, and would also love to answer any questions that you have. Yes, please. It was $425. What was the question was, what was the price of the NordSense? Yes, very good question. So at this stage we use vibrations. I cannot get into exactly how it's going to work in the next version, but it's going to be similar to it when at some stage we had the thought of using electricity, which in many scientific researches have been proven as the fastest way to travel information to the brain. We might get there sooner than later. Let's see how things will develop. For this device, it was, it's funny, but depends on how much you move, but between a day and 2. And then you have to charge it for about an hour and a half. So usually what I do is I take it off when I go to sleep, because it can detach from the body. So I take it off when I go to sleep, I charge it, and then when I wake up in the morning, I put it back on. Sorry? Yeah, so you can come later and look. The question was how it's connected to the body and the battery life. But I have 2 titanium bars that are going from here, one from here to here, and from here to here. It's basically 2 piercings that we modified for our own needs. And again, people come and ask us, okay, but why isn't it a necklace, or why isn't it something that, you know, a wearable or something like that? And the answer is very simple, because we are creating organs, and we don't want people to say, oh, well, the shirt that I'm wearing today is not going well with the necklace, so I'm just going to take it off and put it tomorrow. Because we don't do that with any of our senses. If our eyes don't fit the shirt, so then we change the bloody shirt and we don't change the eyes, okay? So that was the idea. We want the things to be permanent, to be a new organ, and to be part of who we are all the time. Yes, please. Oh, that way. Yes, that's very easy for me. No, I can tell you that when we started, again, people came and asked, "What's going to be the impact?" Now, if you are creating a device that you already know or you have experience. And that was also one of the issues with the pre-orders that we did, because pre-orders usually psychologically work around the idea of, I don't know, I see your shirt and I like it, and tomorrow I'm on the internet and I see someone selling shirts that are similar, and then I say, oh, that looks like the shirt of the guy that I liked, and I'm gonna buy it. But nobody has friends with other senses, right? So how would that work? And I admit it wasn't my idea. It was an idea of one of the other founders called Scott Cohen, and it worked amazing. We are a team of three co-founders. It's myself, Scott Cohen, and Olivier De Simone. Scott and Olivier both are very big digital pioneers. Scott started what is today the biggest digital distributor for music in the world, called The Orchard, in 1997, when everybody was excited about the CD and listening to music on a CD. He said, forget about that, everything's going to go to the phone. And then people said, what do you mean I'm going to dial a number and then listen to a song? And yeah, to cut a long story short, they completely control the market today. You probably never heard of them, but yeah, they are out there. And also people that when they bought it, they asked, so how is it going to impact us? And because I didn't have friends with the North Sense, we just said, well, we don't know. Let's try and let's see. But that's exactly connecting to the place where I said to traveling to space. You know, we never know what's going to happen there, but at some stage they put a dog Laika in a tube of metal with lots of fuel under it, and they say, light that shit up and let's go and see. And then when they saw that she got there, I don't think she came back, but then it was people that did the same thing. But because that's what differentiates us humans from any other creature on Earth. We have that endless curiosity. So if we are so curious about what's happening there, we should be as curious with what's happening here. Yes. That's a very, very smart way of asking a question that I can't answer, because because that's probably part of the stuff that you're going to work on in the future, isn't it? But you can start now thinking, and you can start imagining, and it's enough that you go. There are endless, for example, nature kind of movies that are speaking about many senses that animals have that we don't have. You can start looking around of stuff that is around us that we are not part of, and then maybe, yeah. Say again, sorry. Not sense, yeah. So I said that in the next version we are still not going to use electricity. We are in this place also with the neuroscience world. We have some amazing neuroscientists that work on our team. That we are still learning. We are developing something that is known about the senses that we have in some ways. It is assumed and has been tested about senses that we don't have, or it's been, for example, tested on people that do not have a sense. So, for example, people that cannot see, they try to replace the sight with other type of inputs and to see if that works. So we are taking all that and working with it and trying to understand what is actually the best way to go forward. This is why I tell people that join us at this stage that you're joining a journey of unknown, of learning, of curiosity, and positive doing, which is an important part. The guy at the back, yeah. If the question was if someone doesn't want to implant, so how do we maybe wearables or something like that? I'm not sure that there is an option at this stage, but I can promise you that first of all, what looks today as a brutal thing to put 2 titanium bars in your chest, that first of all it wasn't as a big deal as it might look. It takes exactly a few seconds for each. It's like doing 2 blood tests at the same time. I admit that having 2 blood tests on the chest is slightly scarier than having them in your hand. But regardless to that, the piercings are not going to be there in the next version, but it is going to be permanently connected to your body. So now again, you can start imagining how will that thing work. It's going to be way friendlier, let's call it, or easier to connect. But very soon, again, we're going to get into a place where, and it's not going to happen in the next version of the North Sense, but next senses that we are going to develop, you will get into a place where you actually implant it to yourself. So it's going to be okay. Another thing that is really interesting compared to the wearable world is, again, we live today in a place where we have so many wearables that are extracting a lot of data out of us. How much I walk, how much I breathe, how much I don't know, do whatever I need to do, or blood pressure. We are actually interested into adding things to your brain and to your body, and not to extract things out and then deal with the data. So it's a kind of a different way of two paths. That's it? All righty. Thank you very much for the time. Yeah, please join us, and I'm sure that everyone here in the room will have a new sense before they end their life, and since you are all very young, you're going to have more than one.